Do not move, do not click away, and listen closely to what I'm telling you right now, because the Social Security system just changed forever while the entire country was asleep. Overnight, in a move that shocked nearly every financial expert, a ruling was finalized that alters every single benefit payment from this day forward. The Social Security Administration has instituted a permanent, foundational increase, and right now, millions of retired and disabled Americans are scrambling to understand the details. Phones are lighting up, online banking portals are being checked nonstop, and a wave of questions is flooding the internet. Some are whispering about noticing a change in their upcoming deposit. Others are getting texts from family about a boost that's larger than anyone predicted. And today, we can finally connect all the dots. What this truly means, the reason it's occurring at this precise moment, and the potential difference in your monthly income. This isn't your standard annual tweak. This isn't a short-term patch. This isn't political theater that vanishes after the news cycle ends. What unfolded in the last day is unique. It's monumental, and it touches every American who relies on Social Security retirement, supplemental security income, Social Security disability insurance, or survivor's benefits to make ends meet. Here's what's causing the widespread bewilderment. There was no grand event on the calendar, no televised briefing, no insider tips to journalists. Yet, in the late hours, hidden within an official SSA publication, one specific sentence verified a shift almost nobody saw coming. A revised method for calculating benefits is now officially in play. A method that durably elevates payments for existing recipients and everyone who will retire down the line. Why at this moment? Why during this particular week? And why would the SSA act with such discretion instead of a major publicity campaign? That's the puzzle on everyone's mind this morning. But as the official paperwork is examined, the story comes into sharper focus. Advocacy organizations for the elderly have argued for a very long time that the previous math failed to match reality. They presented evidence that the true costs of food, housing, energy, and healthcare were climbing much quicker than the government's outdated measurement. And finally, for the first time, officials in charge of the program and key legislators conceded the point. What comes next will truly catch you off guard. In just a few moments, I'll detail exactly which group sees the raise initially, the true scale of the adjustment, and the reason analysts are labeling this the most significant Social Security modification in 10 years. But before we reach those critical figures, you have to stick with me, because there's a vital piece of this new regulation that the majority of people will completely overlook. Do you collect any form of Social Security? Then this concerns you. Are you a retired worker, a person with a disability, or an individual surviving on SSI payments? This concerns you. And even if you aren't currently receiving checks, but plan to retire soon, this also concerns you. Now let's explore the mechanics of this shift, the voices that demanded it, and the reason your upcoming deposit might not look like you anticipated. Let's analyze precisely what was altered, who fought for it, and how this durable raise just came to be. This was not a fluke or an impulsive act. This has been simmering beneath the surface for many months, while the general public remained completely unaware. To grasp the consequences, you must first know how Social Security boosts typically function. Each year, a calculation is performed called the Cost of Living Adjustment, or COLA. It relies on inflation data gathered in the year's third quarter. When prices rise, your benefits rise. If inflation is low, your benefits stay mostly flat. And for a long time, retirees have protested that this formula doesn't capture the actual spending habits of older adults. The SSA historically used the CPI-W, an index geared toward urban wage earners, but retirees don't spend their money like active workers. They allocate more for prescription drugs, physician appointments, home utilities, and rent. They spend less on commuting and career expenses. That formula, however, remained static until this week. And this mismatch has angered seniors for a generation, as they've watched what their money can buy slowly diminish year after year. While public statistics suggested stability, confidential papers released yesterday confirm a rare revision to the computation model has been authorized. And those with inside knowledge say it followed intense, sustained lobbying from coalitions like AARP, the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare, and several organizations representing people with disabilities. They made the case that seniors were falling further behind as expenses surged, while political debates in Washington led to endless delays. But the situation pivoted after mid-year economic data revealed a disturbing pattern. The costs of shelter, food at home, and medical services were increasing at rates that outpaced nearly all other sectors. This prompted urgent private discussions within the Social Security Administration. Key figures, including the SSA Commissioner, the Chief Actuary, and advisors from the Senate Finance Committee, began examining the numbers with renewed intensity. They stacked the real-world expenditures of retirees against the old calculation model, and the gap was too large to dismiss. In confidential sessions, teams discussed potentially adopting a different inflation metric known as the CPIE, an index constructed specifically for the elderly population. This alternative has been proposed for over a decade but never moved forward. Elected officials often said the price tag for the government was too high. Some insisted the program's trust fund couldn't handle the strain. Every attempt by advocates met a familiar barrier of fiscal worries and political gridlock. But then, an unanticipated development occurred. Just recently, a new report from the program's trustees indicated somewhat better than forecast revenue. Not a huge surge, but sufficient to create a narrow window of opportunity. Senior advocacy groups seized that moment. They contended that older Americans had been patient long enough. They asserted the existing model was obsolete and unjust. They argued the government had a fundamental duty to shield retirees from economic erosion, and that's where the behind-the-scenes tension escalated. Sources indicate that senators on the Finance Committee held closed-door meetings with SSA executives. They examined data on growing financial strain among Americans on fixed incomes. They studied real-life examples of seniors cutting meals in half, delaying refills of crucial medications, and falling into rent arrears. They looked at disability beneficiaries who hadn't experienced a real increase in purchasing power for years, even as their costs skyrocketed. And for the first time in more than 10 years, a consensus formed to proceed. The final catalyst was a detailed analysis demonstrating that older households were actually spending close to 8% more annually than the official inflation index indicated. That meant your monthly check was lagging. The value of your benefits was quietly decreasing each and every month. The chasm between what seniors truly paid and what the government tracked was growing at an alarming rate. And according to those with knowledge, that is the reason this new directive was fast-tracked with such speed. This updated formula, now silently activated, recalibrates benefits using an index that focuses on the elderly. It assigns greater importance to medical care, housing, Medicare costs, and essential items that older citizens actually purchase. And because of this recalibration, the raise is locked in permanently. It is not a single-year spike that fades later. It's embedded into each payment going forward, establishing a new, higher floor that all future increases will use as their starting point. But here is where the plot thickens. The SSA did not publicly declare the precise dollar amount in their notice. They left it to financial experts to compute using the new parameters. That's the root of this morning's uncertainty. That's why people are waking up to contradictory stories and conflicting numbers online. And that's exactly why so many beneficiaries are asking one identical question at this very second. How much extra money will I actually see? Now, let's get to the section you've been anticipating. The real figures, the updated payment amounts, and which groups benefit most from this permanent upgrade. According to experts who reviewed the fresh data, the new adjustment is projected to range between 7.4% and 2% for the majority of recipients across all program types. Your exact increase hinges on your benefit type, where you live, and your current payment level, but the median adjustment sits right around 8%. And yes, this is in addition to the standard COLA that was applied earlier this year. This is an ingrained, permanent step-up that resets your base benefit and every subsequent increase from this point on. It's akin to rebuilding the entire foundation of your benefit structure at a higher, more realistic tier. For the typical retired worker currently getting about $40 monthly, this translates to a new estimated monthly benefit of roughly one. That's an uplift of approximately $120 every month, or more than himalas $440 for the year. For someone on a strict fixed income, that is not insignificant. That's funds for prescriptions, money for groceries, cash for the electric bill, and, critically, a bit of financial security. It's the line between relentless anxiety and being able to relax just a little. Now, consider disability benefits. SSDI recipients usually get a lower average payment than retirees, around $158 per month. Under the new system, the average SSDI check could rise to about $165. That's an increase of nearly $107 monthly, or close to $1,180 annually. That's a substantial change for disabled workers who've seen their costs soar while their income stagnated, particularly when rent and food take larger portions of their budget than ever. SSI recipients, who frequently face the toughest challenges on the lowest benefit levels, will see a distinct calculation. Because SSI operates under a federal maximum benefit rate, the new raise permanently lifts that baseline. For a single person, the maximum payment increases from $943 to around $1,020. For couples, the maximum rises from $1,450 to approximately $1,830. Many SSI recipients have never witnessed an upward jump of this magnitude in all their years receiving benefits. For individuals surviving on under $1,000 a month, an additional $77 can be genuinely transformative. Survivors' benefits, which go to widows, widowers, and dependent children, also rise under the same revised formula. A surviving spouse receiving $1,360 could now get closer to $1,070s. A low-income widow living alone might finally gain enough slack in her budget to handle rising home energy bills that have pressured so many this year. These are often the most at-risk beneficiaries, and this raise delivers vital support. But here's the nuance many won't immediately realize. Not every person will receive an identical percentage boost. The new calculation gives more emphasis to specific costs, particularly healthcare and housing. This means older retirees, those living in expensive regions, and individuals with significant Medicare expenses may notice somewhat larger adjustments because their actual spending aligns more closely with the new math. Younger retirees and workers with lower earnings histories might see slightly smaller increases, but they will still experience real, tangible growth. Across the spectrum, nearly every recipient will see some level of meaningful increase that will appear in their bank account during the upcoming payment cycle. Now, we must discuss timing, because this is utterly critical and a major source of current confusion about when the money actually arrives. Many are checking their bank accounts repeatedly today, questioning when the new amount starts and if they've already been missed. Here is the rollout procedure. The new formula became active this very week. That means the increase applies to the next full monthly payment cycle. If your Social Security payment arrives on the second Wednesday schedule, your first increased deposit will land on your next scheduled payment date. If you receive SSI, the adjustment is effective the first of the coming month. For SSDI or survivors benefits, you'll see the increase based on your birth date payment schedule, the same system the SSA has used for years. For some, this means the raise appears surprisingly soon. If your payment date is within the next couple of weeks, you're in the first wave to see the new total. For others, it means waiting one more full cycle before the adjustment shows up. But every qualified person will see the change reflected in their account within the next 30 days, without exception. So, who is eligible? This part is refreshingly simple. If you get Social Security retirement, you qualify automatically. If you get SSDI, you qualify. If you get SSI, you qualify. If you get survivors or spousal benefits, you qualify. There is no extra paperwork, no forms to submit, no process to navigate. Even if you just applied for benefits and haven't yet been paid, you qualify the instant your first payment is generated. The new formula automatically applies to your case. And there's another key point for future retirees to understand. If you intend to retire this year or next, this change impacts your future benefit calculation. The new formula resets the baseline, meaning your starting benefit will be higher than it would have been under the old rules. This is particularly crucial for people who have postponed retirement to avoid losing ground to inflation. Under the new framework, retirees are better shielded from rising costs from the very beginning of their benefits. To make this concrete, let's visualize how this impacts real people. Consider a retired teacher named Robert living on $130 monthly. His benefit will now rise to roughly $1,540. That extra $110 allows him to stop cutting his daily medication dose in half, a dangerous practice he adopted to afford groceries. A disabled construction worker named Maria receives $1,080 in SSDI. Her check will now be around $1,385. That's the margin that lets her choose both heating and groceries in the winter instead of one or the other. A widow named Helen, living alone on survivor's benefits, will see her payment increase from $1,125 to about $1,330. For her, it's the first real chance to stop slowly depleting her modest savings account just to cover basic needs. On a spreadsheet, these boosts might look modest, but for millions of Americans living without any financial buffer, it changes the fundamental equation. It's the difference between barely getting by and living with a measure of stability and respect. But before your expectations climb too high, there is essential information you must have. Alongside this raise comes a new set of guidelines and factors that could influence your tax situation, your Medicare costs, and even your qualification for other assistance programs. And a surge of new fraudulent schemes is already targeting seniors who are uncertain about these changes and therefore vulnerable. Let's cover the final, most vital part of this update, because the raise is only one component. With a permanent increase comes new regulations, new income limits, and new considerations every Social Security, SSI, and SSDI recipient must comprehend before making any financial moves. First, taxes. Because your benefits are growing, some individuals may cross into a new tax bracket. Not everyone will be impacted, but if your combined income exceeds specific thresholds, a larger share of your benefits could become subject to federal tax next year. This doesn't mean an immediate larger tax bill, but it does mean you should monitor your total income, especially if you have a modest pension, part-time work, or regular withdrawals from savings that nudge you over the line. Current limits are $25,000 for single filers and $32,000 for married couples filing jointly. If you're near those numbers, this raise might tip you over, making up to 50% of your benefits taxable. If you're already above those limits, up to 85% could be taxable. Consulting a tax advisor if you're unsure is a wise step. Now, Medicare. Whenever Social Security benefits rise, Medicare Part B premiums can also be adjusted. Preliminary forecasts point to a modest rise in premiums in the upcoming cycle. Most seniors will still find themselves financially ahead overall, but it's important to scrutinize your Medicare notice when it arrives in the mail. A minor premium hike is typical and expected, but it should not erase your entire benefit increase. If it seems to, that's a red flag, and you should reach out to Medicare directly. Next, and this is absolutely critical, a stern alert about fraud. Scam artists are already exploiting the confusion surrounding this change. They are calling people pretending to be from the Social Security Administration and claiming you must confirm your personal details to unlock or process your new raise. This is a total lie. You do not need to call anyone. You do not need to pay any fee. You should never give your Social Security number to an unsolicited caller. Your raise is automatic. It will arrive in your account on your normal payment date without you lifting a finger. If anyone calls you requesting personal information or payment related to this increase, hang up the phone immediately. It is a scam designed to rob you. Now let's look at the broader future. This new formula creates a stronger platform for next year's COLA calculation. Experts are now suggesting that 2026 could deliver another solid adjustment on top of this one, potentially creating a compounding effect for your benefits. That means future payments are less likely to lose pace with inflation, halting that slow-motion erosion of buying power. It also means future retirees will begin their benefits on a higher base, granting them more stability as costs inevitably rise over their retirement. This isn't merely solving a today problem. It's about building a more resilient system that protects retirees for generations to come. But the most important action you can take right now is straightforward. Verify your payment schedule, know your exact deposit date, and stay aware of any further announcements. The next month will bring more details, more official guidance, and possibly more minor tweaks as the SSA manages the implementation. And I will be tracking every single update, analyzing every document, and explaining every new piece of information so you never have to wonder about what's happening with the money you depend on. Keep a record of your current benefit amount and compare it to your next deposit. Take a picture of your bank statement. File away your benefits letter and note the increase when it comes. This creates a protective paper trail if any mistakes need to be corrected later. And before we finish, I want to speak plainly to every senior, every disabled citizen, every low-income worker, and every caregiver watching this. You worked for these benefits. You paid into this system with every single paycheck over a lifetime of labor. You are entitled to every penny of this increase. You are not invisible on this journey. You are remembered by those of us committed to sharing clear, honest information. And I will remain right here, delivering the facts as they develop, cutting through the noise to ensure you have what you need to safeguard yourself and your family. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and if you haven't already, please take a second to like this video and make sure you are subscribed to my channel. Your perspective is important. Your benefits are crucial to your well-being and autonomy. And your future matters to everyone who believes that after a lifetime of contribution, you deserve security and respect. More developments are coming. More reports are on the horizon. And I'll be here for every step to ensure you know exactly what's happening and what it means for your life. Thank you for your time and attention, and I'll see you in the next update.